Today we continue our series about expanding love based on the Dalai Lama's book by the same title. And this is largely an idea that as we find a way to love someone, we can transfer that love to the next person. And as we get good at it, we can transfer that love to everyone. The underlying thought is that ultimately, we will not be ruled by our preferences, but we will be ruled by this tenderheartedness, this one world that we love unconditionally. Now, a lot of people say they love unconditionally. I love that idea that people can say that, but it doesn't fit my definition. When people say they love unconditionally, they kind of mean, I love you a lot. But unconditionally means there's no condition in which I will not love you. And there's no condition in which my love will stop, either at you or in the next person. It just goes on without condition. That's what I mean by unconditional. All of this is building together to hold together this primal thought that somehow we are separate from God and from each other. And the suffering that comes in this world is a product of that thought. All suffering really comes from the initial thought that I am separate. With separate comes weakness and need and lack. When we go beyond separateness, when we go beyond this idea that I, a spirit, a divine piece of God itself, could be separate from God, when we go beyond that thought and come back to the deeper truth, which seems to be often beyond our experience, but we somehow resonate to know it is true. When we come back to that deeper truth, that we and the Father are one, as Jesus would say, or there is only one of us here. This deeper truth that we are not separate from God, but then also the deeper truth that we're at some really fundamental level, we're not separate from each other. If we could focus on this oneness long enough, deep enough, then it might break through to our consciousness that we have never been in lack, we have never been inadequate, and we have always been lovable. Feeding the things that cause ill-being, then you will have ill-being. If, on the other hand, you feed the things that cause well-being, you will have well-being. And those things that feed the well-being, those are called the 8 fundamental truths. The first one is the right view, meaning the right understanding of the nature of reality. How we see the world, that is the fundamental thing that needs to change. And to change that fundamental thing, there are practices that we can do. The Dalai Lama has been saying, take love you feel for someone special and gradually transform it and send it out to people you don't think are special, and even to people you especially don't like, to the point where you have cultivated a sense of love and affection for some person or group and been able to spread it around, and so that now in a 365 degrees, you have love for everyone. Someone you have loved or love now, love them. Really love them. Let your body experience the love of that. Let your heart open. Let your mind relax into the pleasure of loving them. Do that. And when you've got that down, look at somebody you don't know. Somebody you've met but you don't really know. And send them the same love you are giving to your best friend or your benefactor. Give that love to that person. And when that becomes a skill that you have, that you can give equal love to the one you don't know as the one you love the most, then see if you can transfer that to somebody you don't like. And if you can do it to someone you don't like, you're beginning to break down the barriers of separation. You're beginning to open your heart to universal compassion, expanding love in all directions. One of the things I think will happen is that we'll begin to come to accept ourselves more, become less needy on a particular person, but love ourselves more and not need to be filled by someone else, because we are beginning to recognize, as we love everyone, we love ourselves. And the unconditional love for everyone out there makes this one more unconditionally acceptable as well. It is a process that by giving it away, we gain it. It is a process by not discriminating against another, we no longer discriminate against ourselves. And if there has been people that we have found unacceptable and have hurt us and we can't forgive, if we forgive them, we find that we have found a way to forgive ourselves. Practicing on the outer is a way of practicing. We should recognize everyone as innocent. Innocent of all things. How few people do we see in the world as innocent? Maybe the baby, maybe even a child up to 5, but beyond that we begin to see them as responsible, guilty. And how do we feel about ourselves? The same. Responsible and guilty. And this guilt is a reinforcer of our separateness, and so the cycle goes. So one way to open ourselves to the fullness of life and to love is to really forgive others. And by forgiving, we look not at what they have done wrong and said, well, I'll get over it, I'll be above you. Instead, we say, at your core, you are innocent, and you are one with the divine and one with me. And when you are like that, then my heart can open to you, because I'm not focused on what seems to be missing or what you did that doesn't agree with me. Instead, I see the deeper truth of who you are. So let us come to our hearts. Be kind to everybody we see. Love everyone we see. Forgive as easily as we can and as fully as we can. And remember that while there are consequences in this world that need to be addressed, we as spiritual beings can greet the world with an open heart, with a sense of peace and belonging, with a sense of adequacy and completeness that only love can bring.